Okay, we're live.
Okay.
The next talk will be return of experience from Mark ZELLER, Siemens. Mark is a senior key expert for model-based safety and reliability engineering at Siemens Corporate Technology. His research interests are focused on the efficient and effective development of dependability-relevant cyber-physical systems using model-based engineering techniques. And today, Mark will present us a safety analysis tool developed on top of the system engineering workbench Capella. So thanks to be with us today. And now you can start your presentation, Mark.
Thanks a lot for the introduction and welcome from my side. So today I would like to show how we leverage Sirius to build up a graphical modeling tool for model-based safety analysis, and also did an integration with the model-based system engineering tool Capella. But first of all, just as a quick introduction, so I work for the Siemens Corporate Technology, and we are the central research part of the whole Siemens Corporation and part of a very big research and development network with a pure focus on the topics, I would always say, on the day after tomorrow. So we do work on topics which are not yet on the radar of our business units and then transfer these results into the different Siemens business units. As a quick introduction to the topic, of course, all you know that we have a lot of embedded systems in our daily life. If we look at trains, cars, airplanes, but also looking on healthcare equipment, medical devices. And a lot of these embedded systems realize safety relevant functionalities. So in case that there's something goes wrong, people get injured or even hurt. So in order to prevent such catastrophic events, functional safety is one of the important properties which has to be managed during the development lifecycle. And while our system complexity is always increasing, also the importance, the size of software in our embedded systems is growing. The number of safety relevant functions is continuously growing, and thus also the need for safety assurance is drastically increasing. But although industry always aims to reduce development costs and brings new products in faster cycles to the markets, the safety analysis itself is very complex and time consuming. One example, just as a background information for such a safety analysis, which is typically done, is a fault tree analysis. This fault tree analysis top-down approach in order to estimate and to assess the reliability and safety of a system. Yeah, and the aim of a fault tree is to trace back influence from a hazard on a system level to individual failures of different components or whatever. And it especially graphically explains these causal chains which can lead to a hazard. And afterwards, you can do analysis to find combination of events which trigger such hazards or calculate the probability that such a hazard occurs. Problem is now, if we look on the state of practice, how safety analysis is done today, that we see we have such models already as fault trees. But in addition, you always have different other ways of specifying a document. You have some specifications written in Word. You have lists of hazards, which are typically held in Excel sheets, and so on. And now if you start to build up a very large-scale complex system, creating the overall safety analysis and especially modifying them in case that you change something in your system design is very time consuming, and you always have the risk of that you run into some inconsistencies and some media breaks between what is done on the system engineering side and what is done on the safety analysis side, especially since in system engineering you work more and more model based with tools like Capella. You work in an iterative, incremental, or even an agile way. While in classical safety engineering, you're working in a very classical V model style, waterfall based process way. And in order to overcome these issues, our approach is to directly integrate the model-based safety or reliability analysis into the system engineering model itself using the component fault tree methodology. And by that, we are able to limit the impact of some modifications on specific parts of the system. So if we exchange a component in our system design, this has only influence on that specific part in the safety analysis model. We have now the possibilities to apply automations, that we can use very early design stages already to do some rough estimation of the system in terms of safety and reliability. And of course, we have a consistency because we have seamlessly integrated the system engineering and the safety analysis model. The component fault tree methodology itself is an extension of the classical fault tree methodology, which is around for 50 to 70 years. And it provides a component concept. As you see, that concept is not very new. It was already developed 20 years ago, but it's quite easy from a sense that practicing engineers who work with fault trees can easily adapt also to component fault trees because we reuse the same symbols. We have the same semantics behind these symbols. We only add new symbols here, these triangles, which describes how the failure propagation between components work. And by that, we changed the focus from looking on for one hazard in the entire system, but we can look for different hazards on individual components. And we reuse the information which are available in the model-based system engineering, which are the interconnection of different components. We can reuse them in building up the safety analysis models. And by that, we have a divide and conquer strategy to break down our complex system safety analysis into modular parts. We can hierarchically compose those component fault tree elements to build hierarchies. And we can also reuse the safety analysis parts together with our components or functions which we have in our model-based system engineering. And still we have the same information. We only have a different modeling concept to have the same information which we have modeled before, which pretty much helps us because we can still use the proven in use algorithms and techniques which are available in proven in use and commercial tools for the fault tree analysis. We can also apply them to analyze component fault trees. If we look how we work with this methodology for doing a model-based safety or reliability analysis, is always that we start with a system description, for instance, in Capella, and then we add for each of the components or functions the component fault tree elements, describing the failure behavior of each of these individual parts of our system design, and then we can automatically build up a component fault tree. We can add here then information in addition to that model on a system level, and then we can transform that into a classical fault tree We can give that out for documentation reasons, or we could directly analyze it. In our terms, we do that with a Siemens internal tool, which we have around for over 30 years to conduct fault tree analysis. Why we have done the model-based safety analysis using the Sirius methodology technology? Well, first of all, it allows us to do graphical modeling based on EMF eco models. Yeah. And we have already started to build up these meta models even some years ago before we started this project. And so it was quite easy to build up on the existing EMF models to add a Sirius ODesign file for that, which is much more easier than doing that in GMF. And so we can give the safety experts some intuitive AI, which is also easily extensible, since we can hook up any kind of Java library into that. We can add new context menus easily. And so it's quite good that the experts have here a graphical editor. This is very important because the first use of any technique in safety engineering is to reason about the system and its failures. And this can be done very easily having a graphical model, much more easier than having a large textual specification of that system. And also, Sirius is not only the foundation of our tooling here, but is also the foundation of the MBSE tool Capella. And so it's quite easy to integrate these methodologies. Now I'd like to present a small example, which is that more or less famous example of a wheel brake system coming from the AIR 6110 standard, describing a real a braking system for the main gear wheel of an aircraft. And if we do safety engineering for such a system, we would always start up with a functional hazard analysis of that system. And for instance, we can then come up with a hazard here, which is saying that the loss of the wheel brake during landing or rejected takeoff shall be less than 5 power to the minus 9 per flight. So this is a tolerable hazard rate, which we have to fulfill for our system design. And this gives us the input now for our fault tree, which we have to do. And we can now start for this example and build up a model-based safety analysis with the CFT methodology. But first, we model the system components using Capella. Second, as I explained, we specify for each of the components a CFT element. Then we can semi-automatically generate a system-wide CFT for that example. And in the last step, we can analyze the actual fault tree, which we have modeled with the CFT methodology in a qualitative or quantitative way. And I go into the tool to show you that. I have already prepared here this small example here in Capella using the physical modeling. And you might see here already that we have the extensions with that symbol for the CFT elements, which show us here that we have already created a CFT element, for instance, for this, and I can easily open that. And we can see here the CFT element view. But we haven't done that yet for the hydraulic supply, so I can easily create a new CFT element here. And I can start modeling. You see that we directly see also here the ports we have defined in our Capella model, and we can reuse those information. We can build up then a failure mode, which we could say, for instance, yes, we want to have that as a loss of hydraulic that. And we can also model then as a next step the internal failures. And in the internal failure, we can give that a certain failure rate, like that, which we say is like power minus 5, for instance, which we get from any data rate. And we then can connect that, and we can map this failure mode to that certain port. And by that, now we have a description. And now you see, okay, we have now all components, as I said, here modeled as CFT elements. And in the next step, we can say also for the whole physical system, which we have in Capella, that we can create a CFT. And we already get for all of our components directly all instantiations of our CFT elements. And since we don't have so much time, I've already prepared that. So I added the top event, the hazard representing the hazard here. I also represented another failure, might coming from another subsystem. And now I'm able to do either a qualitative analysis of that system, close that, or a quantitative fault tree analysis using our tool. Okay, let's go back. What we are now doing with that, as I said, this is a project we have done before, but now we want to leverage that project in or that results in a different project context, and this is an ETH project called Panorama, where we research model-based methods and tools, especially for heterogeneous embedded hardware and software systems. And here we use also the results which we have for our component fault tree methodology and apply that to model heterogeneous embedded systems. So we extend the CFT methodology in terms of that project. For instance, that we aim to couple it with the Almathea meta model, which has already been presented by Bosch before. And then to be able, for instance, to model a functional, on a functional level, the system in Capella, and then later on doing a refinement of that model in the Almathea, with the Almathea methodology, and also extend this system model with capabilities to do model-based safety or reliability analysis. And also we will explore a combination of the static CFT-based safety analysis together with simulation-based approaches, since we are also able, for instance, to derive input for failure effect simulations from CFTs. To summarize what I've presented today, the CFT methodology provides a divide and conquer approach for safety and reliability analysis of complex systems. We can integrate that directly with any MBSE approach. We can also synchronize the safety analysis model with the MBSE model. We have done that in this example with Capella. It's also possible with SysML or any other DSL, especially built on eCore. We can then systematically reuse parts of our safety analysis along with the design artifacts in order to build up some product lines, to build up, to express certain variants very easily. And we can semi-automatically compose pre-existing CFT elements so that you're able to build up a library for your safety analysis for different of your product variants, and then being able to more or less drag in existing components and also get then the failure behavior of that component. We done an implementation of the CFT methodology using Sirius, which provides us a graphical modeling capabilities for that approach very easily. And we have seen that it's quite easy to integrate with other EMF-based modeling approaches, which we will now use in the future in the Panorama project to couple the CFT methodology with the Anathia meta model, and to do then safety analysis on the App4MC platform. That's it. That's what I wanted to show today. Two additional points. First of all, I would like to thank Axel Richards from Obeo for his support during the development of this POC implementation. And second, if you're interested in the topic model-based safety, there will be the International Symposium on Model-Based Safety and Assessment in September. It will not be a physical conference, it will be a virtual conference, but if you're interested, you can register for that on a very low fee. Thanks for listening, and if there are some questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Very interesting presentations. We have a few questions and the time to really discuss, which is really nice. Okay, first question. The gap between safety and systems engineering is so true, but why do you call it media break?
Well, because that's what we have more or less experienced in a lot of projects, because there are other medias used. You often use in system engineering classically word-based specifications. You use some drawings with different tools, and then you have other experts which are doing analysis like safety with different tools, and all these tools have different medias what they are using. Like you have fault trees or FMEA when it comes to safety. You have different representations if you're doing timing analysis. You have representations of the system specification, often in Word documents are written, and so there are different medias which are not interoperable at all. And that's one reason which we discovered that we saw in practice, that analysis are done quite late in the project phase, for instance. Yeah. And by being able to combining modeling on a system level and also on that safety view, for instance, it's quite easily to do a front loading and to quite start in early stages with your analysis.
Okay. Next question. How do you integrate the safety analysis model with the system engineering model? And just a precision, the person who asked seems to think that each domain-specific solution has to be in a separate model.
Well, there are different ways of implementing this, and of course you can say yes, you have some domain-specific models and you exchange data between them. We saw that it's most easy that to provide different views, and in our implementation we wanted to have the one view as the classical MBSE view in the terms in Capella, which the system engineer is used to. But on the same hand, you can also look on the CFT view, on the safety view, and it's integrated and it's based on the same model to be able to collaboratively work on that model and not to have two models which you have to synchronize. Of course, that would also work out, but from our point of view, they should work on the same modeling basis. And there are different infrastructures, like also doing for Capella, to model collaboratively on one model. And so you can leverage this infrastructure also then for the safety engineering part.
Yeah. Yeah, but and maybe it can be interesting to precise that Capella has been designed in a way you can easily extend it. So you have the choice to
Okay, I didn't show that actually, but yes, so we created an own viewpoint in Capella for that, and that was also quite easy to do. And by that, to integrate this EMF and Sirius-based modeling capability into Capella itself, and to extend here with another viewpoint, Capella.
Okay. Do you offer or plan to offer support for the creation or management of safety cases?
Of what cases? I'm sorry, I did not get.
Safety cases. Don't know exactly what.
Yeah.
Does it refer?
Yes, or yes and no. There are other technologies to do that using. We've done previously a project together with in cooperation with the University of York, and they did works on the OMG standard SACM, Structured Assurance Case Meta Model, and also started to build up a tool there to graphically modeling code structuring notation or structured assurance case meta models to build up a safety case, which has then the possibility to link to other models, like models from the system or models for safety analysis.
Okay, and last question, which safety modeling language is used? If it's a CFT, is there a standard language?
We used component fault trees. There are other approaches. As I said, we choose this one because it's very easy for safety experts, which are known to fault trees, to adapt to this methodology. And there is no standard for that yet. But we are currently saying, okay, we are currently integrating this into the IEC standards for fault trees.
Okay, very clear. And thanks for all those insights. We are just in time.